Malcolm X stated, "We are not Americans. We are ex-slaves." His quote acknowledges our uniqueness as a distinct people and explains why Afro-descendant is more than a descriptive term. As our Reverend just said, and I'm the president of the Afro-Descendant Nation. So today we gather not here to pay just tribute to a man, but to reflect on a mission that began generations before Malcolm X and continues with us throughout today. We are here to honor Malcolm X's legacy, and in doing so, we must credit the one who cultivated his early vision and consciousness, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Had it not been for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, there would be no Malcolm X as we know him today. You cannot truly honor the student without honoring the teacher and recognizing the teacher. And what did the teacher instill in Malcolm X? A demand for truth, self-knowledge, and the return to who we are. As president of the Afro-Descendant Nation, I have traveled to the United Nations to speak on behalf of Black people who are now recognized as Afro-descendants globally. We are the descendants of enslaved Africans in the Americas and are more than a history of struggle. We are living proof of resilience and strength. For centuries, we were handed names that truly did not define us. Color, Negro, Black, Afro-American, African-American, and today, people of African descent. While these names are part of our story, they do not truly identify us and who we are. The term people of African descent includes both descendants of enslaved Africans and migrants, which blurs a crucial distinction that's vital to our self-determination, comprehensive reparations, and nationhood. Migrants chose their path. Our enslaved ancestors did not. Distinction matters, and it must not be omitted. We are Afro-descendants. The term is not just another label, it is a correction and a clarification. It tells the truth about our history, our trauma, and our continued fight for self-determination, comprehensive reparations, and nationhood and justice. Let us remember a defining moment in our shared history, a moment when our global identity, Afro-descendant, was formally recognized. In March 2002, 47 representatives from 19 countries throughout the slavery diaspora gathered in La Ceiba, Honduras, for a United Nations sponsored seminar organized by the United Nations Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC. Haiti was among the nations represented, alongside Brazil, Colombia, the United States, and many others. Together, these delegates came to confront the discrimination faced by Afro-descendant communities. And hear the word Afro-descendant. It was in the report. and to promote strategies for human rights and equality. Out of this regional dialogue came something historic: the adoption of our identity as Afro-descendants. Representing the United States were the Honorable Silas Muhammad, who's in the room with us today, and his wife, Attorney Harriet Abubakar, who is also known as Queen Mashaki Muhammad. And I'm looking for her. She's here too. Okay, she's out with the law attorney. So in this report, the official ECOSOC report, it was reported that the Honorable Silas Muhammad read aloud the very definition of Afro-descendant that he and his wife carefully wrote. I'm so passionate about this, so bear with me. This moment marked the very first time our identity was officially acknowledged on an international platform, documented in the United Nations report prepared by Ms. Edna Maria Santos Roland of Brazil. It was more than a seminar. It was a step toward unity, recognition, and justice. From Argentina to Suriname, from the U.S. to Uruguay, our nation stood together to declare who we are, a people of shared heritage and our rightful place in the global conversation. Let us be clear and distinct with our definition in moving forward. We need a specific definition. So many things now have not been defined for us, so we need a specific definition. And that definition was written by the Honorable Silas Muhammad and his wife, Harriet Abubakar Esquire, who's also known as Queen Mashaki Muhammad. So the definition goes as follows. The term Afro-descendants refers to descendants of peoples who were forcibly dispossessed of their homeland, Africa, were transported to the Americas and the slavery diaspora for the purpose of enslavement, were subjected to slavery, were subjected to forced mixed breeding and rape, have experienced through force the loss of mother tongue, culture, and religion, and or have experienced racial discrimination due to lost ties or partially lost ties from their original identity. Now, this definition is not about division. It's about recognizing the distinct historical trauma and its ongoing impact on a specific group of people. It is about understanding that white slave masters forged our journey in this nation in the crucible of forced displacement and the systematic erasure of our African identity. And when I think about that crucible, I think about being at Tuskegee University in that chemistry class. I majored in chemical engineering. So it is not about excluding others. It is about centering ourselves with a laser focus on our needs. Our struggle is distinct. Our history is specific. And our healing requires clarity, restoration, and repair. Malcolm X stated, "We are not Americans. We are ex-slaves." His quote acknowledges our uniqueness as a distinct people and explains why Afro-descendant is more than a descriptive term. It is the foundational truth for our identity and our dignity. To some, African American might sound cheap, but let's examine it. African could mean anyone from Africa, Black or white. American refers to nationality, which means one of European descent. A white woman that worked with my husband told him that she was more African American than he was because she was born in South Africa and she moved to America. Vague identities with no clear definitions, such as African American and people of African descent, both include migrants, and they blur the distinction vital for our self-determination, our comprehensive reparations, and our nationhood. It's time to speak with precision. It's time to call ourselves what we truly are, Afro-descendants, which I just clearly defined. In 1964, Malcolm X founded the Organization of Afro-American Unity. Yet, we are in 2025 and we're still not unified. Why is this? Unlike the Japanese people, the Chinese people, the Palestinian people, the Nigerian people, and others who are recognized people of this world, we have yet to identify under a collective identity. That's the first step that we need. Let's be honest today. No identity, no unity. No unity, no power. It makes us powerless. We have seen this repeated throughout our history over and over again. It's time to stop that now. The time is now for us to come together to the table, which we did yesterday, which we had some good groups and some good conversations, some good things that came out. But it's time for us to take care of us presently and for our future generations. When we identify as Afro-descendants, we link our shared trauma to a shared purpose. We connect not just across neighborhoods, but globally, and number more than 250 million. Can you picture that collective strength? Can you? Can you picture it? Okay, we are Afro-descendant peoples, and that is how we rise and be recognized. Malcolm X, while under the guidance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X spoke boldly about knowing oneself. He said, concerning the so-called Negro, our first need is to be re-educated into the science of ourselves. That's what Afro-descendant is a re-education, a return, a name that carries the weight of our history and the promise of our future. It's how we reclaim our narrative and begin to heal from ethnocide, the systematic erasure of people's identity and culture. Our Afro-descendant identity matters, not just in spirit, but in policy. Without it, reparations becomes watered down, applied to anyone and everyone. But Afro-Descendant targets the debt owed. Our ancestors were stolen. They were enslaved and exploited. We're still paying a price, struggling to be free from systemic oppression. Without it, nationhood becomes a dream deferred. As Malcolm said, nobody can give you freedom. If you're a man, take it. We are taking it. And by accepting our name, Afro-Descendant peoples, unifying and pursuing sovereignty like all other recognized peoples. Whether that's political, cultural, or spiritual, we define it and no one else defines it for us. My dear brothers and sisters, and here with me today, this is not just about a word. It's about who we are and who we choose to be, Afro-descendants. Do you want to honor Malcolm X? Do you want to complete the work that began with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? Then you start with your identity. Embrace it. Mean it. Say it. I am Afro-descendant. Educate. Share with your children, neighbors, church, and school. Advocate. Demand its inclusion in the census, in government, in our schools, in education, and in law. We began to claim our collective power and push toward our rightful recognition, not as a color or a vague label, but as a sovereign Afro-descendant people with a specific and a shared history and destiny. Our fight will not be easy, but it is so worth it. Join the Afro-Descendant Nation in our Afro-Descendant identity movement, and we will become a beacon of empowerment. The world would not freely give us what we're owed. We have defined ourselves. Now let's stand together and demand recognition. I have been out in the UN with our definition and demanding recognition for us. Join me. We are not just victims of the past. We are architects of the future. We are not merely Black. We are Afro-descendants. This identity is our declaration. Our unity is our weapon, and our future is our own to claim. I want to etch our specific definition into your mind. So let me give it to you once again. The term Afro-descendants refers to descendants of peoples who were forcibly dispossessed of their homeland, Africa, were transported to the Americas and slavery diaspora for the purpose of enslavement, were subjected to slavery, were subjected to forced mixed breeding and rape, have experienced through force the loss of mother tongue, culture, and religion, and or have experienced racial discrimination due to lost ties or partially lost ties from their original identity. How many people in the room, by show of hands, does that definition resonate with? If it resonates with you, say it with me. We are Afro-descendants.
We are Afro-descendants.
One more time. We are Afro-descendants. Thank you.
Dr. Akilah Mukarram's impassioned address at Malcolm X's centennial celebration transcends mere commemoration. It is a clarion call for geopolitical realignment. As president of the Afro-Descendant Nation, her speech underscores the urgent need to codify the identity of over 250 million descendants of enslaved Africans in the Americas, a demographic bloc whose cohesion could reshape international human rights agendas, reparations frameworks, and sovereignty movements. Dr. Mukarram anchors her argument in the teachings of Malcolm X and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, whose emphasis on self-knowledge and collective purpose remains foundational. By invoking the 2002 United Nations seminar in La Ceiba, Honduras, where the term Afro-descendant was first formally recognized, she highlights a critical geopolitical milestone. This event, attended by delegates from 19 nations, marked the initial step toward unifying a diaspora fractured by centuries of forced displacement and cultural erasure. The definition crafted by the Honorable Silas Muhammad and attorney Harriet Abu Bakr, now enshrined in UN documentation, explicitly ties identity to the unique historical trauma of transatlantic slavery, distinguishing Afro-descendants from voluntary migrants. The push for Afro-descendant as a legal and cultural identifier is not a semantic pedantry, but a strategic imperative. Vague labels like African American or people of African descent dilute the specificity required for targeted reparations and policy interventions. In intelligence terms, ambiguity is vulnerability. Precision is power. By adopting this definition, the movement seeks to solidify collective bargaining position. A unified identity enables coordinated lobbying at multilateral forums like the UN, where bloc voting and shared narratives amplify influence. Distinct recognition ensures that reparations address the intergenerational impacts of slavery rather than being subsumed into broader immigration or racial equity initiatives. Dr. Mukarram's reference to nationhood aligns with global trends where marginalized groups, from indigenous peoples to Palestinians, leverage recognized identities to claim political autonomy. The movement faces entrenched structural resistance. Governments and institutions reliant on outdated racial categorizations may hesitate to adopt terminology that demands accountability for historical crimes. Yet, the Afro-descendant identity also presents opportunities. Latin American nations like Brazil and Colombia, with significant Afro-descendant populations, could form coalitions to pressure Western powers on reparations. The dispersed nature of the diaspora, if unified, could mimic the influence of global ethnic lobbies, example, the Jewish diaspora, in shaping foreign policy. Inclusion of Afro-descendant in censuses and policy documents would generate actionable demographics, vital for evidence-based reparations models. Dr. Mukarram's work at the UN signals a shift from grassroots activism to institutional diplomacy. The Afro-descendant nations' focus on legal recognition mirrors strategies employed by the indigenous rights movements, which achieved landmark victories through the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples in 2007. However, success hinges on overcoming fragmentation within the diaspora, countering narratives that equate specificity with exclusion. Dr. Mukarram's vision is both a corrective and a catalyst. By reclaiming Afro-Descendant, this movement seeks to transform a history of systemic violence into a platform for global agency. As Malcolm X asserted, freedom is taken, not given. In an era where identity politics drives geopolitical change, the Afro-Descendant identity is not merely a label, it is a weapon of clarity, a blueprint for reparative justice, and a foundational step towards sovereign equality. The international community must recognize this demographic strategic potential. To ignore it is to overlook a seismic shift in the architecture of human rights and post-colonial reckoning. The time for ambiguity has passed. The future belongs to those who define themselves.